Hello once again, James Exum here, also known as Sakshi, Yogi, yoga philosopher, etc., still in South Austin, Texas. This is my third video of the day. I accidentally did number 13 first. I should have done number 11 first, but I did 13, and I went back and did 11, and this is number 12 of the Bhagavad Gita, and this is a comparative discourse between the commentator Adi Sankara, who is the master commentator having to do with the Gita and several other great books. I will give my commentary also through this. So you're listening to a comparative discourse. And here we go with the introduction. My writer's name is Sakshi, S-A-K-S-H-I, which means the witness. So introduction, few spiritual texts command the reverence and intellectual curiosity of the Bhagavad Gita, also commonly called the Gita. It's not an insult to call it the Gita, it's just another name for it. Just like the Bible is another name for the Holy Bible. Yes, it's true. So in this one, we're dealing with the luminous jewel nestled within the vast Mahabharata, which is the Gita. They were both written by a great commentator, writer, and poet named Vyasa. So chapter 12 is called Bhakti Yoga, or the Yoga of Devotion. Vyasa, the sage composer, distills the perennial dialogue between the infinite and the finite, the seeker and the salt. Salt, not salt, salt. That which is salt, that which is one is looking for, to find. Across centuries, commentators such as Adi Sankara and myself as a modern interpreter have well, this is being a little vain, but I wrote, we've cast brilliant light upon this chapter. Well, he did. Mine was more of maybe a 100-watt bulb. His was a megawatt. Each revealing facets of devotion, wisdom, and transcendence, uniquely colored by their times and their temperaments. This comparative discourse seeks to thread together the insights of Vyasa, Sankara, the foremost non-dualist, and myself, who I happen to be a contemporary voice, revealing both the enduring essence and evolving the interpretations of Bhakti Yoga. I've had over 50 years of learning and studying and perfecting my tenets of yoga philosophy. So I'm not a sage, I'm not a guru, I'm not a swami. I'm just an old student of yoga philosophy. So now we're going to go into the first part that I've written about. Now we've passed the introduction, and we're going to deal with the original vision, Vyasa's chapter 12's original vision, which is, it unfolds as a dialogue between Arjuna, the great prince of the royal family. They're outside the battleground. They're at the verge of the battle, the perimeter of the battle. And Lord Krishna is acting as the chariot driver for the young prince. He's also his instructor and teacher, so to speak. But he's incarnate, he's in human form. Blue-skinned, but human form. As normal as that can be. So Arjuna, ever the seeker, asked Krishna, which is better, worshipping the manifest form of the divine or the unmanifested, formless Brahman? Krishna's response, gentle yet firm, anchors the waveless ocean of the Gita. of the Gita. And these are bullet points. Devotion to the manifest, the Sagwana Brahman, is easier for embodied beings. If we imagine him as a form, that's why statuaries, murtis they're called in Sanskrit, are so popular in places of religion, even though yoga is not a religion, it's a science of life, a science of living. But it's easier if we have an image, a physical image, even though it's plaster or bronze or gold or diamond encrusted, it's easier for the human mind to accept that as a concept of what a creator looks like. Sorry about that, I wiped something off my screen and it flipped it. Well, I flipped away the image of what was bothering my eyes. So worship of the Nirguna, formless Brahman, is arduous, demanding abstraction, detachment, and subtle intellect. Well, it's hard to worship something that's nebulous, you know. I don't see too many people kowtowing to the form of an amoeba, which is sort of formless. It's sort of rounded and stretched out and, you know, abstract. Although the idea of an amoeba always reminds me of that Indian shape that's on a lot of their cloths and a lot of their symbols. It's a beautiful symbol, really. I can't think of the name of it at the moment. It'll come to me, though. So Krishna enumerates the traits of the true devotee: non-restfulness, friendly, compassionate, free from possessiveness and ego, content, forgiving, self-controlled, and unwavering in resolve. You know, I've been having thoughts about a friend of mine that I believe has, for whatever reason, given me a hard time lately and presented a situation where it's made me very untrusting of this person. So I'm not very forgiving about that at this point in time. I will work through it, though. You have to look at the big picture. Little things should not color the entirety of the book, so to speak. One action does not make a war. One action does not make a lifetime. Forgiveness should be a major part of our existence. It's part of our self-control. We shouldn't be resentful, as I just said. The devotee surrounded wholly to the divine obtains liberation through love. Well, if you show all those positive traits, then you are showing a loving devotion to each and every part of the universe. Vyasa paints devotion not as a mere ritual or sentiment, but as a transformative force, a means to transcend the limitations of self and merge with the divine principle. Very important passage. This Sankara was the 8th century master of commentary. I'm using him, or he's using me. Well, we're working with each other to give point and counterpoint concept of what we're reviewing here. And I think that's easier for you as a listener to have different sides of the same subject explained to you from different vantage points. He's from the classical, I'm from the contemporaneous. Adi Sankara, the towering figure of Advaita Vedanta, approaches the Gita's 12th chapter with a philosophical rigor. Usually it's me that goes after the philosophical, but he's going after it in this one. For Sankara, the ultimate reality is Brahman, unqualified, unmanifest, and non-dual. While Bhakti is acknowledged, it is esteemed as a preparatory path, a stepping stone towards jnana, or knowledge. Saguna and Nirguna worship. Sankara, ever the dialectician, affirms Krishna's hierarchy. Worships of the Saguna form is successful, and the Nirguna form is the apex. Yet he insisted devotion, when purified by discernment, viveka, and renunciation, vairagya, blossoms into self-knowledge, dissolving the distinction between devotee and deity. Dissolving the distinction between devotee and deity. Marvelous. Simply marvelous. That's one of the keys to enlightenment. Shankara's commentary highlights the ethical virtues enumerated by Krishna as indispensable for spiritual maturity. Asserts that these qualities prepare the mind for higher contemplation, purifying the heart and fostering equanimity. Shankara's bhakti, which is devotion, Bhakti Yoga is the yoga of devotion, thus is not a mere emotional attachment, but an abiding love that culminates in the knowledge of one's non-separation from Brahman, liberation. Bhakti and jnana. Jnana is wisdom or knowledge. Bhakti is devotion. Shankara, Bhakti, and Jnana are not adversaries, but allies. He writes, knowledge, quote, knowledge is the direct means to liberation, but devotion purifies and makes the mind fit for knowledge. Devotion purifies and makes the mind fit for knowledge. That's a very good thing to remember, please. Didn't mean to move out of camera, but I'm new to this. This is like my 14th. Well, it's not my 14th. I'm in my 30s. I think I'm in under 35 videos so far. Bhakti Yoga then is a path that resolves itself in Advaita, the realization that the individual self, Atman, and Brahman are one. Well, of course we're one. Are my blood cells different than me? They're smaller. I produce them, but they're part of me. Without them, I would be lacking, probably dead physically, not spiritually, physically. So of course they're one. Now, my contemporary perspective on this, as Sakshi, the writer, which also means the witness, I call my soul the witness, Sakshi. For Sakshi, Bhakti is not confined by ritual, language, or even belief. My soul is not confined by ritual, language, or even belief. It is a practice of surrender, a deliberate turning of attention and intention towards the divine presence within and without. I interpret the qualities of the devotee as a psychological state. There again, we're in agreement. As psychological states to be cultivated, compassion, equanimity, and humility, each dismantling the architecture of ego. The ego is not always a good thing. Yes, there's another key to enlightenment. It's a submission of the ego. If you look at that statue directly over my head, I'm going to try to get in the center. There it is, right over my head, standing on that high boy in the background. That is Lord Shiva, and one foot is compressing a dwarf underneath him. The dwarf stands for ignorance. So it can also stand for ego. So once you suppress your ego, once you suppress your ignorance, you're well on your path to enlightenment and to seeking the earthly goal of moksha, escaping samsara, the continual reincarnations, the manifest and the unmanifested. I echo Vyasa, acknowledging the human need for form, symbols, images, and archetypes. But I caution against literalism, inviting the practitioner to use form as a raft, not a destination. The statue is just simply a way of getting there, of aligning your mind with a concrete image as opposed to an abstract image so that you can worship. Not in a religious way, but to worship the being as the creator. You can be a creator and not be religious. I create blood cells every day. That doesn't make me religious. That just makes me a manufacturer of blood cells. So the raft is just a way, it's a form of getting there. It's not the destination. The destination is totally different. The form dissolves into the formless. I wrote that. The form dissolves into the formless when devotion becomes total. Now, that's another paradox. And I keep saying I'm not going to discuss paradoxes, but I'm not. Perhaps in a different video I will go into some of the paradoxes I've run across for you and introduced you to so far, but not tonight. I'm getting very tired. This will be my third video of the day. I did 13 first. I should have done 11 first, and this is 12, and one in between. The path of inclusion, unlike Shankara's hierarchical approach, my approach advocates for pluralistic inclusive path. I see bhakti, jhana, karma, selfless action, and raja meditative yoga as interwoven. And those are 4 different types of yoga: bhakti yoga, jnana yoga, karma yoga, raja yoga. Bhakti is devotion, jhana is wisdom, karma is selfless action, raja is meditative. And of course you have asana yoga, which is the physical exercises and positions, which I taught at a much earlier age when I was in my mid-20s. I'm a little too old for that now. So the 12th chapter, in my view, is an invitation to harmonize these strands, adapting them to the needs of the modern world. And now we're going to go into comparative insights. Devotion, is it emotional or is it knowledge? Vyasa offers bhakti as a direct path, accessible, heartfelt. Shankara, while revering devotion, places ultimate value on knowledge. I bridge the gap, asserting the deep devotion naturally matures into insight, and insight deepens devotion. Well, there it is. Excuse me one moment. Deepens devotion. There's an ethical transformation. All 3 interpreters, including myself, the ethical transformation of the devotee is essential. The qualities Krishna describes, compassion and forgiveness, self-control, are not optional. They are the substratum of spiritual life. The substratum, the underpinning, the undergirders. Place of form. Vyasa, through Krishna, teaches that form is helpful for most seekers. Again, it's easier to worship something that has a concrete form as opposed to an abstract form. When I say concrete, I mean solid. Shankara pushes beyond form to the formless reality, why I see forms as a vehicle to getting there, not a cage to be trapped in for eternity. The goal, liberation or union. For Shankara, the goal is liberation from ignorance, realized in unity with Brahman. For Vyasa and Sakshi, myself, the goal is... Now, when I write these, I write in the third person, so I say Sakshi. I don't say James Exum, or I, or me, or myself. So when I'm reading my own writing, I have to kind of transliterate as I go for you. I have to transcribe it a bit for you. And it's not that I'm having any kind of a psychotic episode. It's just a mixture of the techniques. One is reading, one is writing. Union for Vyasa and Sakshi, the goal is intimacy with the divine, union through love. These are not mutually exclusive, rather they are complementary aspects of spiritual fulfillment. Now you can be spiritual without being religious. You go, well, there's another one of those paradoxes. I hope he gets around to explaining these someday, because I'm tired of him teasing us with them. Well, I'm not teasing you. I'm just using my time, your time and my time, to our best advantage. Living relevance. The 12th chapter of the Gita is a living scripture pulsating with the heartbeat of human aspiration. Through Vyasa's poetic vision, Shankara's philosophical clarity, and my integrative teachings, we continue to inspire, challenge, and uplift the listener, the viewer, the reader, the seeker, the student, the aspirant, In cacophony of modern life, the Gita is called devotion, rooted in virtue, humility, and surrender, remains a compass, and it is a compass. The call for devotion, rooted in those three things, virtue, humility, and surrender. Whether approached as emotion, knowledge, or practice, Bhakti Yoga offers the seeker a path to wholeness, inviting each soul to dance with the divine in form and beyond. Well, I mentioned Lord Shiva. Well, he is doing his cosmic dance back there. So we made it to the conclusion, which is pretty darn good. And again, I'm going to do under 25 minutes. This is remarkable. I don't know how I'm doing this. It's just, at first I was doing an hour, over an hour, and then I was doing 45 minutes. After about 30 some odd of these, 33, 35, I've gotten it down to under 25. Maybe I'm staying on track a little better. Maybe I'm not roaming off, or as the great fearless leader of our nation who just renamed the Department of Defense the Department of War, which it was in World War I, of course. I don't know if it was in World War II, but they claim it was. Well, regardless. That's rather Orwellian, isn't it? He's gone back to the old name, the Department of War. Well, I suppose when you have war on your mind, even though you're proclaiming that you have nothing but peace and goodwill and the saving of human lives on your mind, then you can accidentally slip in a new title for one of our major departments, led by a young man with less experience than even I have as far as war is concerned. I've lived through so many of them, I know a little bit about it. And the son of a World War II veteran, and also a son of a Revolutionary War veteran. Sons of the Revolution, they call us. So the conclusion, the 12th chapter, sorry about slipping into that verbiage for a few minutes, but even an old yogi gets tired of all the crap that's going on out there, and I will call it that because that's exactly what it is. It's worse than that. At least I used a proper word. I didn't use an improper word. But you get my point. It is an invitation to transformation. Vyasa, Sankara, and myself illuminate the many faces of bhakti, its accessibility, its profundity, its power to transmute the heart and mind. If you're devout, you can do these things. In weaving their insights, we glimpse the unity behind diversity and the perennial wisdom that beckons us to love, to know, and to be. And there it is. So I did 3 in one day. Amazing. I used to be proud of being able to do 1 in one day. I did not change tops this time. I kept the same shirt on for all 3 of them. Usually I change them, color coordinate them, so to speak, so I know where I am, but to hell with that, I don't have to do that. And as a yogi, I can say hell. I'm not a priest, I'm not a pope, I'm not a bishop, I'm not a rabbi, I'm not a swami. I'm none of those. I'm merely an old philosophic scientist dealing with the science of living, the science of life. There's my conclusion, our conclusion, the conclusion. So now I'll give you my closing standard statement. Be good to yourself. Be good to each other. Be good to friends, family, and even strangers. More especially strangers. Just might save your life. And remember that if we do this, if we are kind and civil to each other, and there can be a revised edition of what's happening in the world today. It may fight 5, 10, 15 years, but when it comes, we'll be able to look at each other in the eye as fellow humans, with devotion towards being human, with love towards being fellow humans, and say, isn't it wonderful? We got back the world that was taken from us by those power-hungry people that try to take it away from us. Well, there we are. That's as political as I'm going to get. If you enjoyed it, thank you so much. If you did not, that's okay too. And we'll see you in my next video, our next video. I hope you learned something. Review it if you wish. Take notes. Yogapedia, Wikipedia, both are great sources for learning of those things I speak about. Good night to you, and thank you again.